All right, all right, all right. You're listening to the We're Talking Football podcast. I'm Weston. With me, as always, my right hand man, Lou. Lou, actual football is finally here and upon us. It is week one of the preseason is in the books, entering into the second round of preseason games, joint practices between games. I can't wait to get to the regular season. I just want to fast forward and skip over potential injuries and anything like that over the next few weeks and just get in. But I would be remiss if I didn't call out your jersey selection this evening that we were. I'm ad-libbing here that we were talking about Bad Boy for Life there, paying homage to the late, great, notorious B.I.G. I respect it. And I'm quite envious of that jersey, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, just paying homage to the GOAT, the greatest out there to ever do it. Don't come at me at that. I'll battle you all day. That could take about a 2-hour rap right now between me and you. Yeah, so preseason football, it's a bittersweet. The bitterness means summer's ending, but the sweetness means there is some meaning to our lives on Sundays again. It's not just going to the beach and dragging along all this shit for your family and everything. It's more of Sundays are now again for the boys. So yes, like you said before, nervously watching, just want the regular season to get here. Don't want any injuries for any team, to be honest with you. I don't care if you're a division rival or what have you. I just want everyone to get to the season fully healthy, and let's get this shit going.
Hell yeah. It's funny when you say it's for the boys. It just reminds me of that song. Let's hear it for the boys.
Yeah, no, yeah.
All right.
Hold on. I'm going to cut that up, and I'm just going to be randomly playing that on our Instagram page at WTF Pod NFL or our Twitter page.
Do you want me to give you an extended version of it so it's a little easier to cut?
We're trying to get listeners and followers. So I'm sorry.
That'll gain us 3 followers. Mark my words.
Yeah, for that reason, I'm out, dog.
Yeah, for that reason. It's a no from me, dog.
Yeah, it's a no.
Let's remind our listeners that tonight's episode is brought to you by Primetime Sports Talk, your top source for all major sports content, including DFS, fantasy advice, and great betting tips. Be sure to head to primetimesportstalk.com to check out their in-depth analysis, exclusive content, fascinating interviews, and explore the rest of their amazing podcast family. Again, one more time, that's primetimesportstalk.com, your go-to for sports content. So I feel like I'm on the Fan when I read through that. You know what I mean? Like where everybody's got to have that quick that quick commercial break. Lou, but tonight's episode, it's fun, but it's risky.
Hold on. Tonight's episode is not from 1877 Cars for Kids. Anyone listening to this right now, they're going to have that song stuck in their head.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids.
Yeah, we're losing subscribers left and right.
Whatever,
I think we're down to 2 now.
And that concludes this evening's episode. Thanks for listening.
Good night, all.
But we do have a fun and risky episode tonight, right? While I'm sure we could, spend hours and hours reliving our last episode and talking top sports movies of all time. Actually, now it's time to get down to business, I should say. And we'll take a look deep into our crystal balls and predict the futures and outcomes for the 2022 season. My intention, yours as well. Let's kick it off by focusing on the team-based element of this. And then from there, we'll jump into some player accolades and player predictions for the year. I think there is no better topic to start with than defining our division winners for all 8 of the NFL divisions this year. Lou, I will give you the honors. You pick. Are we starting the AFC, NFC, and what division are we starting with?
How about I'll start with the AFC, and then maybe you go NFC, and then we go reverse. Like we'll do an Uno card here.
All right, cool. But I'll match you. So I'm just making this up. But if you start with the AFC North, then I'm going to jump to the NFC North, and we'll go that way.
Loving it. All right, so Wes, I want to tell the listeners about our contrarian or our contrasting ways how we probably came to get to our division winners. I used a website where basically it's called Playoff Predictor. And basically what I did was I went through every team's schedule and basically get to choose who wins the regular season games and determine that. When you do that, basically what happens is you're determining the record, and it creates who from all the games and all the teams that you pick. It creates who will then go into the playoffs. So that is how my analytical. I'm numbers based driven. I need more concrete type of stuff, and that's pretty much how I got to my division winners. I sent you that information earlier this week, and you politely told me to go f off. I am not doing all that work, so you can go ahead and enjoy that. So mine is from a website determining every regular season games. And then Weston, I feel. Am I correct me if I'm wrong? Is it gut feeling from you?
As it always is. It's
Feeling.
gut feeling based on watching this sport for 34 years.
34 years.
Gut feeling.
And if people don't know, Weston is 55 years old, so he looks great for his age. He got into watching football late in life. If you do the math, 55 minus 34, carry the one. I think he was like 19 or something.
Yeah, I just cleaned up my weave too to eliminate a lot of my gray hair, so I look even younger.
All right, so okay, enough with the bantering here. All right, so I'll start off. The East. The East is the best. So for the AFC East, I have the Buffalo Bills winning that division. I don't think it's a secret here. The Jets. Up and coming team, kind of, but they still don't have their play caller, their future play caller really comfortable yet. I don't know how really effective he's going to be. It's a tough division for the Jets, so I don't really see them as major threats to that division. Then you got the New England Patriots. Now, a couple years removed from Tom Brady. I don't really know if I believe in Mac Jones, if you want my honest opinion. They're going to be feisty, but that's all that I think they're going to be when it comes to threatening the Bills for the AFC East. And last but not least, then you got the Miami Dolphins. I think they're a talented team. I think a lot of people are sleeping on them, but I still don't think they match up well from the Buffalo Bills from a talent standpoint and coaching standpoint. So I have the Buffalo Bills winning the AFC East.
I think I'm a little confused on the subject. Am I supposed to also
be my
winner here?
This is
all right. Buffalo Bills next, right? Like I don't even, I'll try not to be redundant here. The Jets are still a ways away. No idea what's going on with the quarterback scenario, how much that's going to linger with Zach Wilson. A lot of youth on that team, added a lot of talent for sure, but no seasoned vets that are going to get them over this hump, and the likes of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and that Bills defense that on paper got better with Von Miller coming into town.
And they have a boatload of pass rushers: Von Miller, Gregory Rousseau, Boogie Basham, Oliver. They have a lot, and they're good in the back end too. Probably one of the best safety duos in the back end. Now they have Tre'Davious White and the kid Elam from Florida, who's ridiculously athletic, good size, good speed. And then they have players at the second level with Edmonds, and they have some Milano. Those guys can cover. So that defense is loaded. There's a concern. It's the running game. They try to address it with Cook out of Georgia, the running back, but he's not every down running back. And also their offensive line's a little spotty, I would say. But when you have a mobile, physical quarterback, you don't need to have a dominant offensive line. So I agree with everything you said.
I think just good news for Buffalo Bills is the best player on their team touches the ball every snap. So that puts you in a better position. I thought the Jets are a ways away. I think the biggest thing for New England right now is like, okay, we have 1 year of Mac Jones. It was a pretty consistent year. It wasn't a lot of up and down. It was relatively consistent. What have they really done around him? Not a ton, because it's still under the Bill Belichick model, right? I mean, last year was an anomaly, but not spending a lot of money. I think the biggest knock for them is one consistent cog in the wheel is gone, and Josh McDaniels from an offensive coordinator standpoint. I think that's a knock against them. And with Miami, like, I think this like always haunts Miami. They always seem to have talent, but it never comes to fruition. First year head coach down there, right? New regime. I understand that they tried to get better in certain areas, but to me, this boils down to who's under center. And you know how I feel about the individual who's under center. And for that reason, and while he's still there, this team is not a playoff team in my mind. You know, this is, I could have ended it at Buffalo Bills on to the next division, and nobody would have disagreed, but a little bit of justification for it too.
Real quick, I think I was high on Tua coming out of college because I loved his ball placement and everything. Thought he was very extremely cerebral, and you hated Tua. I think this year we're going to see. We're going to probably meet closer to the middle. I do think Tua is going to be better than what we've seen before, and not sure if that translates to wins because of the AFC is ridiculously hard. But I do think they have an offensive line. That the Miami Dolphins have an offensive line that they invested in. They have some skill positions. I think Tua is going to be better, but I don't think he's going to be as good as I thought he was, and I don't think he's going to be as bad as you think he is.
I think statistically he will be better, and here's why. Statistically, he will be better because you're getting another year out of Jalen Waddle, right? Another year of Gesicki, and then you bring in Tyreek Hill. Now, the problem is Tyreek Hill is not going to be leveraged or execute the same way he did in Kansas City. He's going to play closer to the line of scrimmage, a lot of gadget plays. Remember, who's the head coach and who's going to be influencing the playbook here? Mike McDaniel, who's spent time in San Francisco. Expect a lot of similar usage gadget plays outside of like literally handing the ball off to him in the backfield, like Depot last year for Tyreek Hill. So for that, yes, completion percentage will go up, yards will go up. A lot of it will be yak, but it's not going to me, it just won't translate to wins.
Yeah. And like I said, it's very well possible, but
yeah.
All right.
Where do you want to go from here?
Let's go up north. Very hard division here. The AFC North. You got all teams outside of probably the Browns now because of the news that came out with Deshaun Watson being suspended for 11 games. We shall digress and not get too much into that because we just want to talk about football today. We are no legal counselors. So outside of the Cleveland Browns, I feel like you correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you can safely eliminate them.
Yeah.
If Deshaun Watson was
misses 11 games,
yeah,
you're out of the hunt.
The 6 games, I think they could have maybe done something because the first like 3 or 4 games for the Browns are easy. So maybe if they went like 2-2 and then like Deshaun Watson came back, okay. But I feel like they're out of the hunt. So now it's a 3-horse race here. You got the Steelers, fantastic defense, great skill positions, running back, wide receiver, but it's all going to come down to quarterback. If I'm, you don't know, who's under center. Is it Trubisky? Is it Pickett? And even if it is one of those guys, how much can he really can the quarterback really propel the Steelers going against these 2 other teams? And everyone's going to be quick to say the Bengals because they invested in the offensive line. Joe Burrow finally has legitimate talent in the trenches to protect him, and they were so fun and splashy last year. So it's a popular pick. That being said, I'm on the Ravens bandwagon. Last year they missed 20. Yeah, I have the Ravens winning, and I get it. They don't have receivers, but they never really needed receivers with Lamar Jackson. They're just because you don't like how their offense runs doesn't mean it's not effective and efficient. A couple things I think what people forgot last year, they missed. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was like like 11 starters on both sides of the ball out of 22 were out for significant periods of time last year. You're talking about Ronnie Stanley, one of the better left tackles out there. You're talking about J.K. Dobbins. You're talking about Marlon Humphrey. You're talking about Marcus Peters. These are no slouches, all right? Now, not only are they getting these players back healthy, they did a great job in the NFL draft drafting Kyle Hamilton. They also got the safety from the Saints. What's his name? Was it Marcus Williams? That guy was a baller and turnover machine. I'm sorry. I think people are really marginalizing all the talent they're getting back from injuries and all the great job they added in the draft, especially when it comes to defense. And let's not forget the first 7. I keep on saying this, in a lot of our shows. The first 7 or 8 weeks, Lamar Jackson single-handedly outpaced 11 different offenses last year from a rushing and a passing standpoint, like combined total yards. So there was so much attrition from injury standpoint, and I feel like you can't really factor that in. And usually when that doesn't happen twice in a row, and that's why I think the Ravens are going to be the AFC North champions.
I'll make it short and sweet with my response. I 100% agree.
Ooh.
And it's not even a hesitation on me. They have the most dynamic player in football under center, and if he's healthy, you just spelt it out. What he did in those first 8 weeks, I'll take it a little bit further for you with him. He played effectively 11 games through the first 12 weeks of the season. 9 out of those 12 weeks, he was also the team's leading rusher.
Yeah.
Dude does everything.
Dude, they were pulling people from the scrap heap. Devontae Freeman, like, come on, people off the streets, like and they weren't giving.
They were 8-4 before he went down, and then they finished 8-9, and they were still in the playoff hunt, right? Like you said, with scrap heap talent, etc. I'll take this. So I agree. Deshaun out 11 games. That cross cancels Cleveland. I like Pittsburgh's team, and they will be competitive, but I think eventually, well before the halfway point of the season, it'll be Kenny Pickett's offense and rookie quarterback. There will be growing pains. There will be a lot of things. And again, I don't know if he projects everybody around him to be better just yet. I do think he will be a very competent starter in the NFL for an extended period of time. I just don't think, year one taking over, let's just comfortably call it halfway through a season is going to be enough. I'm
going to say one thing too. Then, like, a lot of Steeler fans, I see a lot of chatter on Twitter, like, dude, we made the playoffs with Big Ben's corpse and his dead arm. But with Big Ben, yeah, I get it. He couldn't get the ball to his receivers. They didn't really have too many turnovers.
He didn't put you in bad spots. You know what I mean?
That's where players like Mitchell Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, that's what they changed. Don't forget, Kenny Pickett had a tremendous amount of fumbles in college too. Yep. So that's where it's going to be different.
Here's my knock against Cincinnati and why this for me puts Baltimore over the top. Since 1989, so I did a little statistical research here for a guy who's gut. Since 1989, 14 teams that lost in the Super Bowl, Cincinnati Bengals last season, have failed to reach the playoffs. And only 3 teams in 33 years, essentially, have made it back to the conference championship the next year after losing the Super Bowl. 2 of those teams are the New England Patriots that were led by Tom Brady, right? They are not led by Tom Brady. Here's the reality for the Cincinnati Bengals. They are a very young and talented football team. And on paper, yes, they got better. But effectively what happened for them last year is they caught lightning in a bottle, right? So to get back to this point and to compete with a healthy Lamar Jackson, they need everything to go right again. And that is very difficult. One of the things that I love about the National Football League is the shape of the object that they are carrying. The shape of the object says that it bounces really funny ways, right? And I say that because, like, a late fumble that you do recover that puts your offense in an opportune spot to win a game, or a late fumble that you land on yourselves and don't turn the ball over, the next year that ball bounces differently. It just does, right? And like, I go back to lightning in bottle. Let's not forget that in the previous, I'm not a big Zach Taylor fan. I'm just telling you right now, and you know how much coaching matters in the NFL. In the previous 2 seasons, they were combined 6, 25, and 1. In 2 previous seasons with Zach Taylor.
Can I step in there? You hit the nail on the head. So they finished last in the division, right? So what happens when you finish last in your division? Guess what? You play the next year. You play the last in the division against the counterparts from other divisions. Guess what? They won their division last year.
Now they play number ones.
Now they're playing number 1 winners in the divisions on their schedule. So it's no longer the cakewalks and what have you. They're going to be facing a little stiffer competition. So
yeah, that means they automatically draw Kansas City, Buffalo, and Tennessee without even taking into account the divisions that the AFC North competes against this year.
Exactly.
It's Baltimore for me.
Yeah.
It's I've just gave you some color to it, but it's Baltimore for me. This is still John Harbaugh's division.
I'm a little scared kind of that we're kind of in lockstep right now. This is usually not how we operate here.
Well, the first one was a layup, dude. If anybody came in and tried to argue the East differently, they'd lose credibility in my eyes. This one was more in the air.
Okay, so let's go to the next one then.
Yep.
We're gonna say.
Can I start?
Oh, yes, we'll start, but we're gonna save the best for last. So we're going AFC South now.
AFC South, Indianapolis Colts. To me, Matt Ryan just makes all the difference for this team. They're a transcending team. They have a dynamic running back. They have I like to think of a plethora of relatively consistent wide receivers. I think Michael Pittman is absolutely ascending. I love what Indy does on the defensive side of the ball. DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard. He changed his name, didn't he? He's going by something, but he's still Darius Leonard to me. They got depth in the secondary. Matt Ryan puts this team over the top. Matt Ryan will be what they were kind of hoping Carson Wentz would be. Matt Ryan still has plenty of football in him. He's super talented. He was lost in his contract forced him to be lost in a ton of mediocrity down in Atlanta. And people forget that this guy's an MVP, right? Like he's played at a high level. He doesn't even have to be that. The other thing, and I don't want to give away too much right here, but I have zero expectations that Tennessee duplicates what they did last year, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I just think like Tannehill is descending, right? It's only a matter of time before I think Malik Willis gets serious looks and serious opportunity. King Henry's another year older, and there's finally a kink in that arm.
All right. So he got hurt last year, but
kink in the armor, bro.
Hold on. If you look at the glass half full, because he got hurt last year, he did not have the same workload as he normally has. Save that wear and tear.
Doesn't matter. A big
body, playing devil advocate here.
It's a mental game now. Big body running back like that. I got hurt with my foot. You know what I mean? Like of all things, like it's just like, dude, he's a big man. Those feet matter. And we've seen it time and time again. I know he's not 30 years old yet, but running backs will plateau out of nowhere, right? Like Todd Gurley is a cautionary tale about this, right? Todd Gurley gets hurt once. Dude's not even in the NFL anymore. And I don't even think he's 30 years old.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
He had issues in college with degenerate knee and arthritis. I mean, that was his thing. That was the medical flags.
I'm just saying. Georgia. I just think the last year was Tennessee's year to capitalize, and they did the best that they could.
Okay, so I'm actually going to say the winner of the AFC South is the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm going to agree with you. Couple of things. Never was a believer in Wentz, and I am a believer in Matty Ryan. Matty Ryan's going to a team where they're going to be able to protect him better because they have a better offensive line, and they're going to be able to run the ball better. I don't know. When was the last time Matt Ryan had a good, rushing attack? It was with Devontae Freeman in his prime, like before he signed that big contract. So
and they went to the Super Bowl, didn't they?
Yeah. So he's going to be able to take there. So it's not going to be all on Matt Ryan taking all the heat. There's going to be ways. He doesn't have to win the game, but he just can't lose the game, and that's what Carson Wentz did so many times last year for the Indianapolis Colts. He lost them the game. Yep. So yes, they're going to be feisty. They're always going to be tough out the Colts, but I actually think this is more of a reflection on the Tennessee Titans than is Indianapolis Colts. You alluded to before. I think you're right. I think last year was their swan song. I think it was like that was the closest they're going to get. They lost some offensive linemen. Their offensive linemen they've tried to draft over the years has just not panned out. Dylan Radins. There was another big guy they drafted out of Georgia. They don't have that dominant offensive line. They lost Roger Saffold, and that's what they were. Now they lose A.J. Brown, and you're expected to replace him with a talented Treylon Burks. And I think we've gotten spoiled with rookie wide receivers and how much they contribute, in their first year. I think Treylon Burks is going to have a lot of ups and downs. He's going to have great flashes, but he's going to disappear, and they can't afford because that offense has lost so much talent. They can't afford that disappearing act, and it's not fair to Traylon Burks. And I know that defense is rugged and what have you, but that's another thing. They're inconsistent as well. So I think this is more a reflection on the Titans, them failing to capitalize last year, and I think the Colts are good, but this is more of the Titans not being able to duplicate what they did last year. So it opens the door for someone else.
No argument. All right. That leaves us with one division left in the AFC. It's your division. I'll let you lead it.
All right. So not being a Debbie Downer here, man. In order to beat, what does Ric Flair say? Woo! In order to beat the man, you got to beat the man. And I'm sorry, I have it penciled in here, the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't care the fact that they lost Tyreek Hill. I don't care about that. I think you're going to see a completely different type of Kansas City Chiefs team. It's going to be more efficient. It's going to be more rugged. And I'm sorry, it's going to be great, but just in a different way that you're accustomed. It's not going to be flashy, those throwing of the bombs to Tyreek Hill and what have you. I think it's just going to be almost like a Green Bay Packers type of offense with like Aaron Rodgers, efficient, big play here and there, but they're going to, Kansas City Chiefs fans will love this, matriculate down the field. And their defense, they lost Tyreek Hill, that big home run hitter. I get it, but they added some talent on that defense. So their defense is no longer a complete liability. They're going to be competitive. No one was ever scared of that Kansas City, Chiefs defense. You always were scared of that offense. So now that their defense can provide a little, stoppage against opposing offenses, I think it's a little scary, and that's why I think the Kansas City Chiefs win the AFC West.
Yeah. You're going to be, I don't know, you might start getting upset with me, but I 100% agree. Listen.
Wow, are we 4-4?
4-4 right now.
Wow.
Listen,
this is not planned, ladies and gentlemen.
All four teams you could argue, are in the mix here. This is on paper the toughest division in football right now, and you can easily make a case for any of them. I know the Chargers are becoming the darling of the NFL right now, and rightfully so. I mean,
see, it's interesting that you say that because believe it or not, I'm seeing more Raiders love from like people like Rich Eisen. I'm seeing because Devontae, like who are you going to stop? And I get it, but I'm seeing more Raiders love than Chargers love.
Let me put it to you like this: I've seen videos out of camp for the LA Chargers, and more people have been showing up to the camp than were showing up to home games when they were in San Diego.
All of a sudden, they have fans now. Huh?
Yeah. They went from like 13 to like 300. So like we're matriculating up in the fan base. And listen, on paper, bro, and I think they will be as advertised. But you hit the nail right on the head, right? Like I can't logically argue any other team outside of the Kansas City Chiefs, because if you want to be the champs of this division, you have to dethrone the 6 consecutive time champions of this division. I actually do see 3 playoff teams from this division. More to come on that when we get to that point. But that being said, we always talk about coaching. I know Tyreek Hill's not there, but you know who's still there? Patrick Mahomes is still there. You know who else is still there? Andy Reid's still there. Andy Reid was winning this division when Alex Smith was his quarterback, before Patrick Mahomes was his quarterback. And he is mature enough and confident enough. And you saw a lot of it last year, change of the game, right? It wasn't like, hey, first play of the game, we're airing it out 80 yards to Tyreek Hill, catching him off guard. And before you know it, we're up 7-0. Now, do I think losing Tyreek Hill has an effect? I do, because I think when you get the other skill teams in this division and they feel confidently like they only really have to narrow down on like Kelsey and the deep threat, but then you got this rookie Sky Moore who can take the top off you if you're not paying attention. Is he Tyreek Hill? I'm not saying that, but you're going to have to account for him. He's going to get behind some people and it's going to be in the back of your mind. I think the only knock is for the last few years, I'm just not sold on a Kansas City running game. Right? It's just not sold on the running game. But at the end of the day, when you've won the division 6 times in a row, somebody has to prove to me that you're not capable of winning the division. And right now, they have the 2 most important things. They have the head coach and they have the quarterback.
I'm sorry, if they can't run this year, they're never going to be able to run because their offensive line is really good. So if they
Yeah.
can't establish the run this year, then it's more of a will than a skill type of thing. They
Yeah.
just don't want to.
All right. So we're 4 for 4. I'll let you keep going. I'll let you
All right,
pick.
so yeah, let's repeat our division winners in the AFC. Go ahead, repeat them.
AFC East, Buffalo Bills. AFC North, Baltimore Ravens. AFC South, Indianapolis Colts. AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, so let's go into the NFC, and I will let you start off more, being that this is I'm stepping in your kitchen now. So
Um, I'll start where it's less controversial, and I'll start in the NFC South. Uh, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
yeah, I think
Here's my note. Is
hang on.
Tom Brady still there? Okay, just checking and asking for a friend. Period.
Yeah.
Like, period. Stop. Like,
Yeah.
end of story. And the reality is unfortunately the teams around him are the teams in that division have gone down talent. Like, I don't know what New Orleans is with Jameis Winston under center consistently. Michael Thomas out a year. Like, what does that look like coming back? Is he now all of a sudden on his back nine because injuries are lingering? Then I think of the Atlanta Falcons and, like rolling out Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder as your starting quarterback. Zero confidence in there. I don't even know if Calvin Ridley's been reinstated. Hey,
No.
Kyle Pitts is a plus. I think Atlanta's defense has gotten a little bit better. And then we know what Carolina is. The only thing I'll say about Carolina is I think they're going to be a little bit more competitive than people think. Like, they're getting back people like J.C. Horn, right? That defense.
Who's been balling it, by the way.
Yeah.
J.C. Horn's been balling.
That defense is going to look better than it is. And I do think Baker Mayfield is a step up from anything else that they've had under center there for the last 2-3 years. And again, from me, more to come on that subject in a moment, not to give anything away. But again, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are Tom Brady led, then we're all good here.
Listen, I'll make this short and sweet, just like myself. The Buccaneers own the division. The rest of those three teams are just renting.
Yeah. Yeah, they're tenants in the NFC South.
Exactly.
All right, where do you want to go from here? Saving the best for last, of course.
Yeah, of course. Let's go to the East.
All right.
This one was controversial because no team, I remember the last time an NFC East team won back-to-back years when it comes to a division. And the Cowboys won last year. And I'm going to say this trend continues. I think this year it's going to be the Filthy Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles winning the NFC East. They did a great job this offseason, adding talent on both sides of the ball. Fantastic job adding AJ Brown, bring something completely different to that dimension of that offense they didn't have before. Their offensive line is always phenomenal. Now they added some defense, drafting Jordan Davis, Kaiser White in the second level, signed James Bradbury. You have to like the moves they made. They also drafted Nakobe Dean as well.
Brought in Jaquaski Tart.
Yeah, like you have to like the moves they make. And looking at Dallas, if you look at Dallas, they lost some talent. They lost Amari Cooper. All right, their offensive line is no longer that big bad offensive line. Ezekiel Elliott has shown signs of regression because he can no longer carry the load because the offensive line is not amazing. Dallas' defense is very good, so I'm not discounting them. I just think between all the injuries that Dallas has at the skill position, it's CeeDee Lamb, it's Dalton Schultz, and then who else? And I just think I'm not a believer in Jalen Hurts, but I think with this amount of talent around him, they can find a way to win the NFC East. So you hear it here, the Eagles in the East.
I mean, dude, I said the Philadelphia Eagles too. I think we're going to agree on every team. It's actually scaring me because we never agree on every division.
I think maybe the rest of the playoff teams will probably, that's where we'll have some
playoff teams will be some discrepancy, but I have the Eagles too. I have zero faith in this division. I mean, the Giants might win 4 games all year. Sorry, Giant fans. Sorry to my family who, we're Giant season ticket holders, but 4 games.
But that's
Maybe.
okay though. That's okay if they win 4 games as long as they're competitive in these games. You're not looking to if you're a Giants fan, you're not looking to win these games this year because you don't have all the talent there.
If
You
you're a
you still
Giants fan and you think this division is winnable for you, you're actually not a Giant fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because you're not paying attention is
Yeah,
what it comes down to.
you just want to get off those bad contracts. And I
Give
think just
Dable another year to get his people in, another off season, and not a short off season like there is for head coaching changes, especially an offensive coordinator who was sitting into the, the divisional playoffs, right? Like, and probably took him a week to get off the couch after the way they lost that game to Kansas City, especially when his offense was rolling the way they were. But I'm gonna loop back here and say with the Cowboys, I feel the same way about them that I do about the Tennessee Titans this year. Should have capitalized last year. They were a better team. They had things going. They kind of won the division like handily. But like, hey, another year with Mike McCarthy and you didn't get over the hump. I'm not believing it. I'm not buying it. And like you said, I think the Amari Cooper loss is bigger than people are anticipating. I think they need to make a shift away from Zeke, to be honest with you. I think you need to see more Pollard. He's just more explosive. I think Cowboy fans are in for a rude awakening, and it feels like eight games this year is the way that I see their their outcome. And like, please spare me with the Carson Wentz led Commanders, even if that defense comes full circle to what it was 2 seasons ago. There's just not going to be enough on offense, and Terry McLaurin is just going to waste away another season, even after signing his contract. But yeah, I think it's Philly, and I think it's Philly easily. Now, the one thing that I can poke a hole in is Jalen Hurts the guy? But you know what? This year, based on the rest of the division, I don't think he has to be the guy. Just don't be the one who puts your team in bad spots all the time.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, don't be that guy. Exactly.
Doesn't have to be the guy, but don't be that guy.
Exactly. All right. I guess we go to the north.
Yep.
My notes here are real simple. See above. Does number 12 still play for the Packers? Still rocking longer hair with some semblance of a porn mustache? Still dating complete wackadoo females? If so, all systems go for the Packers to win the division again for the 50th year in a row.
Yeah, it's the Packers, and you gotta look at their schedule. So here's a funny thing: I think the Packers record-wise might be better than last year, but the team might not be better than last year. Their schedule is really easy this year, and I know they lost Devontae Adams, but that defense is pretty stout when it comes to rushing the passer, and the secondary is loaded. So I think maybe they just win a little differently, kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs. There's going to be some growing pains, but I still think having Aaron Rodgers under center is going to be enough of an X factor for them to easily win that division.
Unquestionably. Listen, the offense is going to take a step back. It is, and I think you're going to see a lot more predicated on the running game, right? So that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to do Aaron Rodgers-esque things in his 38-year-old season or whatever it is. And there's going to be growing pains with the wide receivers. But on paper, they've gotten a lot better on defense too. And you're right. I'm looking at their schedule right now, and they're like,
where do you see the losses? Like, there's a couple, but like,
I mean, their bye week's not till week 14. But I mean, like, you got Chicago twice, you got Detroit twice. I mean, Buffalo at Buffalo could be a loss. At Tampa Bay, they struggle down there. But they'll need some firepower. And
I had them at 13-4.
Yeah, so you have them probably losing against LA, Buffalo, Tampa, and then
I don't know.
Maybe. Well, they're home against Tennessee. Maybe Tennessee.
I don't know. I just couldn't see them going 14-3. So I probably just threw another one in there.
Well, what'd they go last year? 14-3?
Did they?
Hold on, I'll tell you. I think they went, or they might have gone 13-4. So the 1, 2, 3, 4 losses. So they went 13-4, and one of them was Week 18 against Detroit in a meaningless game that Aaron Rodgers didn't play.
Yeah, this offense is going to be interesting because I really think that they're going to see a lot of two-back sets because, all right, Aaron Rodgers, there's some disconnect with his receivers, so you're going to want to get Aaron Jones out there, because he's a good pass catcher, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers saying earlier this week that they just want the best 11 on the field. They don't care what position they play. So I have a hard time believing that AJ Dillon isn't one of their best 11 from an offensive standpoint. So I think both running backs are going to be on that field often.
AJ Dillon needs to be on that field, and he needs to be on that field because he's a tempo setter, right? Like he's a bruiser, and if you have them both on the field at the same time, you open up your options. I mean, Aaron Jones plays like a wide receiver with the ball in his hands. You know what I mean? And then so now it's like I don't know what they're gonna do. Like so, you're gonna see a lot of them.
It's gonna be like it's gonna be something interesting, like something they haven't seen in a while.
But the moral of the story is it's Green Bay's division for the foreseeable future.
Agreed.
All right, so that saves the best for last. And you know what? I'll even you let me do the honors. All right.
Yeah.
You know how much this pains me to say. Probably more than any listener can ever imagine. I too feel the same way about the NFC West that I do the AFC West. It's likely that 3 teams find the playoffs again from this division, especially in a not so stacked NFC in the first place. But what it all boils down to, it's the Los Angeles Rams. It's the defending Super Bowl champions. There's nothing that tells me they got increasingly worse. Do I think they're missing a few, hey, Von Miller not back? Yeah, sure. Do they lose a free agent or two? Yeah, sure. Robert Woods gone. I think that hurts more than people are giving credit to. But hey, you can on paper sniff out and say, hey, they brought Allen Robinson in, right? I think they're 2 totally different players. But, Stafford's still there. I do think I like their running game to improve based on health of Cam Akers, right? A full off season. I mean, we saw what Cooper Kupp was capable of last year. We all know what Aaron Donald's capable of. Yes, we know. Jalen Ramsey, the defense is there, but it's hard for me to say that this team coming off of, and I think the world of Sean McVay. I do. I'm a Shanahan guy, but McVay is a boy wonder as well, and he's going to get creative. He's going to get scrappy. Now, that being said, what makes this an interesting – so my prediction is the LA Rams, but I do think there's some things that can rock the boat a little bit. Keep in mind, not only do these teams all play each other, just like the AFC West does, we also have the AFC West on everybody's schedule.
That's a brutal schedule, man.
So it gets physical, it gets hairy, anything can happen. I think the only thing that might rock the boat is if Trey Lance ascends quickly. Right? If that all of a sudden starts looking like, wow, this guy's a pretty good player. It doesn't have to be great yet. And I don't expect him to be great in his first full season as a starter. But if he's a little bit better than advertised, like what you saw, glimpses of last year, the 49ers, and this is not a homer statement, are still a very talented football team that are plenty capable. And let's also, yes, they lost the one that mattered the most, the NFC championship game to the Los Angeles Rams. But over the last 3 years, Kyle Shanahan has owned Sean McVay. Even in that loss in the NFC Championship game, that was the 49ers game that they gave away. They had a 10-point lead and essentially just couldn't put it away and gave it away. So that still lingers. That's making myself feel a little bit better, but it's the Los Angeles Rams division to lose.
I am 100%. Wow, we're all 8 divisions. Yeah, we're in lockstep here. So I'm 100%. I agree with you. I think it's going to be the Rams. And I do think, yes, they lost Von Miller, but they got Bobby Wagner. And I know completely different positions, but you're still adding another talented player to that defense.
A veteran, talented, proven winner, Super Bowl champion, Bobby Wagner.
So maybe they'll be better because they got eat up over the middle last year. Especially by the 49ers. So maybe Bobby Wagner kind of patrols the middle. Maybe they don't have as much as pass rush, but they'll have a little more security in the middle of the field. Like you said, I love the fact adding Allen Robinson, even more so than Robert Woods. I know Robert Woods is good in the run game, as a run blocker, but I think Allen Robinson brings more to the table from from a receiving standpoint. A little nervous about their offensive lineman. Their offensive line, I think, is a little suspect. But I'm going to agree with you. There is a concern here, or not concern, but there's a caveat. You're saying if Trey Lance ascends, I don't think that's the caveat in my honest opinion. I think what's going on with Matthew Stafford's elbow, that's the concerning factor. The fact that he's having issues right now, and it's like week 2 of camp, you still got to play like 17 games, and I think that's the concerning issue. Even though,
especially when doctors have said this is not a common thing for NFL.
I agree, but they also said Dr. Chow, who is like a well-renowned, former, NFL doctor. He said this shouldn't be a huge issue, but you're right, it is rare. But I'm sorry, man. If you're having problems now and you're not really getting hit, and Stafford gets hit, he stays in that pocket, man.
He's tough.
And so I'm sorry. That is the concern I would have if I'm a Rams fan and where things can go awry really quick. But I agree with you. So I'll do a recap from the NFC.
Hold up, before we recap, I'm going to use this moment as platform for a cautionary tale, because you mentioned something that I think is very, very relevant. That the 49ers' success against the Rams in the past has been predicated on play over the middle, specifically play action, quick slants, right? Exploiting that middle. 49er fans, you are hearing it first. It's going to be different games against the Rams because it just so happened to be the strength of our quarterback in those games is where they were the weakest, right? Was over the middle, and that's where the weakest. It's a different ball game when Trey Lance is under center, and I don't think he's experienced and seasoned enough. Like, exploiting the middle of a field is a difficult ask for a quarterback, right? Like, you're thrown into traffic, you're doing certain things, there's a lot of congestions, mistakes can happen. But for whatever reason, Jimmy was his most accurate there, right? Like, it's where he excelled more than he did in other areas of the field. Trey Lance is going to want to air that ball out. You're going to be looking at 15, 16-yard dig routes. You're going to be looking at certain things. And that kind of plays into the strengths of the Rams defense, right?
It does.
Like, now you have to attack Jalen Ramsey, right? Now you got to attack those safeties. That's a scary proposition. And also, mind you, like, no secrets here. And if any 49ers fan who's not willing to admit this is not the same offensive line. I don't know if we're playing bully running ball. It's going to be more disguise and scheme running the football. Like, we all joke, dude, and you can go back and watch it. For over the last 3 years, the 49ers have done a pretty good job of taking Aaron Donald out of the football game, right? And doing it with like people like Daniel Brunskill. I don't know if that's the case right now. That's the weakest part of this line, is right up the middle.
You know how I feel. I've been saying this for months now.
Yep.
If I'm a 49ers fan, I am extremely concerned with the interior offensive line and how that could affect the play of Trey Lance. So I agree with you.
I do think what the difference is like if the interior of our offensive line was this bad and Jimmy was under center, nightmare. Yes, no mobility, doesn't step up in the pocket.
Now it's just a bad dream.
Yeah, Trey masks some of that because he's elusive enough to get around and he'll take off, right? Yeah. But what I loved about what I've been watching him so far is even when he's moving forward, his head is still up looking downfield before he decides to run. So he's not your traditional running quarterback who's like, broke down, I'm gone, right? Like, still looking for the big play. And to me, that shows some of his maturity, and I like that. But I wanted to come out and say that because I'm not a naive 49ers fan. This is still a super talented team, probably a playoff team, right? And can make waves this year. But there are holes. And what I wanted to call out and why I edged the Rams over the 49ers is because, the last few years, you felt like you can go into those Rams game, even if you were noticed, and be like, I feel pretty good about, like, even if you were nervous, like, I feel pretty good about this. Like, we might sweep them. Those are 2 wins in your bucket. Like, it's a 50-50 split now, in my opinion. So, all right. So recap the winners.
So the recap of the NFC division winners we have in the NFC South. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In the NFC East, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. In the NFC North, we got the Green Bay Packers. And out in the NFC West, we got the Los Angeles Rams.
So this is a first at the We're Talking Football podcast that
We
in a
never
single
agree on
segment,
anything.
we agree on every single point. We may have different logic that got us to those conclusions, but the conclusions are exactly the same. So now let's get into where
Hey,
we will
Weston.
inevitably
Yeah.
have different.
Hey, Weston. Let's fuck that up right now.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the remaining playoff teams outside of those 4 teams.
All right. So are you just gonna name them, or are you gonna like place them like what seed they're gonna have?
You know me. I got them
went
placing
seed?
seeds.
Me
I
too.
went deep.
Me
Oh,
too.
okay.
Me too.
All right. So you want to stay in the AFC or we'll go to AFC?
We can stay in the NFC.
All right. So you can go first again.
All right. So my 1 seed's the Green Bay Packers, just based on their schedule. My 2 seed is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My 3 seed is the LA Rams. My 4 seed is the Philadelphia Eagles. My 5 seed, San Francisco 49ers. My 6 seed is the Minnesota Vikings. And my 7 seed is the Arizona Cardinals.
Okay. All right. So in the NFC, I have as the 1 seed the Green Bay Packers. The 2 seed, the Los Angeles Rams. The 3 seed, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The 4 seed, the Philadelphia Eagles. The 5 seed, the San Francisco 49ers. The 6 seed, the Dallas Cowboys. The 7 seed, the New Orleans Saints.
The Aints.
Okay, so I wanted to say something about one of the teams you had in there, the Arizona Cardinals. I find it interesting with all the drama that they have going on that you would have them in the playoffs, and especially being in a hard division. I don't see it happening. Now, you might want to then say, hey, wait a minute, Lou. We just kind of bashing the Cowboys a second ago. How the hell do you have them in the playoffs? Schedule. They do play the Giants twice and the Commanders twice.
Yeah.
That's 4 games right there.
And they'll split with Philly.
Yeah, so that's 5 right there. And I think what's really going to happen, I wish you got to like pin this, earmark this, whatever you want to do to this. This is going to be a different Dallas team. Their defense is going to be really good. Their defense is going to be fast. They're going to be attacking. And we've always, the last like 15 years, you never really see a Dallas defense like that. It's always been the offense. It's always been predicated on the offense. I think their offense is going to struggle. I think the defense is going to carry them.
Yeah,
they got a lot of talent on that defense, man. They got like 4 or 5 defensive ends that can bring that heat. They got the linebackers that can play. They got some speed in the secondary too. I think we're overlooking that.
I'm not overlooking it. I am a bigger believer in their front 7 than I am in their defensive backfield. I honestly think Trayvon Diggs is overhyped. And listen, easy for me to say, sitting in my freaking basement, talking with you on a podcast, that an NFL player is overhyped. He had a phenomenal statistic year last year, but it was go big or go home for him, right? And listen, I know it's only preseason, but you see plenty of tape. When you're a big name player, people are looking to exploit you in the sense of like, can't wait for you to make one mistake and we're going to take advantage of it and nationally advertise it. But dude, he's getting burned. He's still got a lot to learn, a lot to go. Now, I do agree with you. The front 7 is going to be ferocious, and Micah Parsons is a savage.
Yeah, Diggs does gamble, and I get that, and that's why he's susceptible to big plays. But with that front 7 applying pressure, I still think he'll get some big plays because of that. He doesn't have to stay in coverage long.
No, the ball's coming out quick, right? So if he guesses right, it could go to the house, right? Yeah. But like, you got to guess right. And last year, what I mentioned before, the ball bounces funny ways, and it doesn't often. Very few times do you see a corner who might have 7-8 picks in a year come back and do it again next year. It just bounces differently, man.
Did you want to question me about my Saints pick too? I kind of felt like I was between 2 teams there.
Give me what? So what were the 2? Like, if it wasn't the Saints,
it's Minnesota.
Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota's still a talented football team, and Justin Jefferson is an absolute animal.
They're a sexy football team. However, I don't think they're as talented. I don't like the talent as much as maybe you do. I don't think they're as deep, and I think they're more one-sided. Their defense is not what it used to be honest with you. I'm looking at this New Orleans Saints team.
It's got to be based off schedule.
No, looking at they have Kamara. Apparently, he's not going to get suspended this year. They did a good job adding, skill position players in the wide receiver, Olave, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry. Even though I'm not a big believer
I'll
on
say
Landry, but
you
if he's your,
love Landry, don't you?
no, I hate Landry. But if he's your third, though,
Yeah. Different
if
expectations.
he's your third, so their offensive line is still good. I know they lost Armstead, but they replaced him with Penning. Not saying he's the same, but it's not a no-name guy out there. There'll be some growing pains and what have you. So they're they're going to be a physical offense, and the defense is still loaded, man. It's a little older and longer in the tooth. I get it, but they've added talent on that defense. Marcus May, Honey Badger. I'm sorry, that defense is still pretty damn loaded. So I find, and they guess what? Who else? Who did they play twice? Panthers twice, Atlanta twice. And I know our boy Craig when he was saying those games are different. I get it, but Atlanta, they're divulge of talent.
We got to bring Dwayne on here so he can tell us a little bit more about the NFC South battles. Listen, I'm not disputing it at all. I draw the line at Jameis Winston being the quarterback.
Yeah, as long as he just hands off the ball a couple. They did that. Gotta think about it. They were in contention in the playoffs with Taysom Hill as quarterback.
Yeah,
and that guy.
But my justification for the Arizona Cardinals, I don't feel like I have to justify the Vikings. It's the division that they play in.
Yeah,
the schedule is not terrible, but for the Cardinals, is they do this to you year after year. They start on fire.
They ain't gonna start on fire without Hopkins.
Yeah, but it's usually enough. You know what I mean? Like it's usually enough. And if I remember correctly, and you know what, I'm basing this off of loose facts, but I want to say they don't really get into the division. So they have one.
I have the Arizona Cardinals.
They have one division game in the first 8 weeks.
I have the Arizona Cardinals winning 7 games.
Okay. But they do start home against Kansas City, at Las Vegas, home against the Rams, but then they go Carolina, Philly. But then they go Carolina, Philly, Seattle, New Orleans, Minnesota, Seattle again.
I don't see any. I see 2 Seattle games there. Like that's all I see.
Nah, they got
Carolina. Okay, that's 3.
I mean, listen, we're saying Philadelphia is going to win their division. We're not saying Philadelphia is a bunch of freaking studs. It's a winnable football game.
Okay.
So we'll see. All right.
Let's go to AFC.
AFC. You want me just to rattle?
Yeah, go ahead.
1 seed, I got the Buffalo Bills. 2 seed, I got the Kansas City Chiefs. 3, I have Baltimore Ravens. 4 is Indy. 5 is the Los Angeles Chargers. 6 is the Las Vegas Raiders. And then 7, I was tossed up. I had 2 teams written in here. I'm going to land with the Tennessee Titans. And that's going to be division based. That's going to be, again, this was a team that was the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. And I do think that was how they needed to capitalize. But I think based on their division, some of their schedule, they'll have enough to get in.
Okay, interesting. So for me, 1, I got the Buffalo Bills, the 1st seed. For the 2nd seed, I got the Baltimore Ravens. Interesting. You can tell I'm all in on the Ravens. 3, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. The reason why I have the Chiefs at 3 because I do think, they're going to
division record. It's going to be the division record. It's a gauntlet.
Really, yeah. 4, I got the Indianapolis Colts. 5, I got the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
Believe it or not. 6, I got the Los Angeles Chargers. And 7, it's interesting. The only reason why I have this team, I was between 2 teams, and I did the playoff predictor. I told you from that website. These 2 teams had the same exact record. Don't know. I guess whoever I picked, what games they're going to win, they must have just had a better conference record. I had the Denver Broncos edging out the Las Vegas Raiders for the 7th seed.
Yeah, listen. I mean, all 4 teams could be playoff teams on paper, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen that happen before, so I don't foresee that ever happening. I'm just not on call it my hatred for Russell Wilson, call it whatever. Again, you do it off predictors. I do it off of gut, and my gut is just like, I know we've always talked about I think my cat's downstairs. I don't know if you can
Yeah,
hear it
I think
meowing in the background.
we got a third on We're Talking Football.
Yeah, that's Denim, everyone. 18 all 18-year-old cat just blindly wandering my house right now. But I just am not on the. I know, like going into last season, we talked about like they're a quarterback away, but there's just something I can't get out of my head that I watched a lot of last year, and like at the end of last season, like Russ just wasn't the same. And the biggest thing for me is the kink in the armor. Like finally a guy, like I know he's played hurt, but has never missed games, and finally missed games last year. And there's just something about it. And I think what puts it over the edge for me, because if it wasn't going to be the Raiders in that sixth seed, it was probably going to be the Broncos in that sixth seed. But what puts it over is maybe just my infatuation and excitement to see this Derek Carr, Devontae Adams come to fruition. Because what I think Devontae Adams does, is he statistically going to do what he did in Green Bay? No, I don't believe he does. But what he does do is, like, think about the weapons in Las Vegas prior to Devontae's arrival. Hey, if we could take Darren Waller out of the game, we're probably all right. And then Hunter Renfrow is scrappy. Like, okay, we're going to try to take Darren Waller out of the game and leave Devontae Adams wide open? Can't do that, right? Like, you try to take Devontae out, Waller's in single coverage. Renfrow will eat up the middle of your football field. He will eat it up, man. Like, dude is a stud slot wide receiver. He just is, like the offense is going to look different.
So I wish you would have seen me as I'm writing my notes or typing my notes. I changed the Broncos and Raiders back and forth, regardless of what I did from the playoff prediction, because my gut says the Raiders will get the 7th seed because that team is so talented. But from a schedule standpoint, I feel like, and also the Raiders' offensive line not being good, and they are a really talented team, the Raiders, but they're extremely thin. They lose somewhat. Like, they don't have. There's like literally no one behind anyone from a depth standpoint, and especially on that defense. So that is where the issue lies with me. Is if someone gets banged up, I think I think the Broncos is a safer pick. But like I said, I was tossing and turning on this Raiders Broncos.
Earmark this at the 1 hour and 2 minute point in this show. I say, I'll tell you what games will actually determine who makes it into the playoffs, and it'll be both of these teams against the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers typically have owned the Raiders, former Bay Area rivals, etc. So I think they go into that game with confidence. Russell Wilson has traditionally owned the San Francisco 49ers. And there's just that thing, that stigma.
And the Broncos got a good O-line. They got a good running game.
So if the Broncos beat the 49ers and the Raiders lose to the 49ers, that'll be the win that separates who decides who makes the playoffs.
All right. So
all right.
You heard it here first.
Who's going to the Super Bowl, Lou?
Oh, I mean, I am doing my Chris Berman best take, and once again, the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody circles the wagons
like the Buffalo Bills. I have the Buffalo Bills facing off against Green Bay, and I have, just like I had last year, I'm sticking with it. I'm going to keep on picking the Buffalo Bills versus Green Bay, and I say the Bills win the Super Bowl this year.
All right. I was so tempted to, like, do you remember like how many years in a row Chris Berman picked the Buffalo Bills to play the San Francisco 49ers? I think it was like 9 seasons in a row. I was just so tempted to do that just for like optics. But I do have the Buffalo Bills, and I have them facing the Los Angeles Rams, and I have the Buffalo Bills winning the Super Bowl.
Okay. All
right. So sticking on team front, Lou, who is going to be the most surprising team from a positive lens for you this year?
You shouldn't have let me go first, because I don't know who your team is, but if I'm a betting man, I'm putting money on this. It's your second favorite team in the NFL.
Damn it, dude.
I have the Detroit Lions, and it's going to be a surprising team this year. And let me state my case. All right.
Yep.
They are in a weak NFC. They've done a good job adding some blue chip talent in the draft. right? I
Yep.
love the fact Jameson Williams. They added Hutchinson. Love those, and they've done a great job with the draft. They have a good offensive line, right? It's always important. They have some playmakers. They had DJ Chark. That they have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now later on in the year they'll have Williamson, and they have the tight end as well. So they're loaded from a skill position. I know they don't, that the quarterback, is to be desired, but it's a system that he's familiar with. He can be protected. He's shown that he can be a backseat driver and let everyone else do the work for him. They got two good running backs, and their defense is kind of feisty. So, and you got to love what the coach brings. I love the defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, out there in Detroit. So I'm saying Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I should have went first. I don't even have a backup because I was so emphatic about this. Normally, I would just say,
you don't have to have a backup. Don't have a backup.
It's the Detroit Lions. Listen, they're not making the playoffs anytime soon.
No.
But forget the additions that they made. I keep making this point where I feel like I'm a broken record. I'm getting rather redundant right now about the ball bounces funny ways. These guys were in a lot of football games last year. And I know what they finished with 3 wins. I think
they could have easily finished with 6 or 7.
Easily.
The Ravens game. I don't know a couple other games.
I mean, what did Justin Tucker kick the longest field goal ever in the game, right? Like the Steelers game, that was like Steelers were like begging them to win the game, and they couldn't find a way to do it. And I feel like they've only gotten better on paper. You might laugh, but I feel like them being on Hard Knocks is building camaraderie for this team. Is this year 2 or 3 of Dan Campbell? I think it's year 2. Another year in the regime. Love the head coach. I too am a big fan of Aaron Glenn and what he does on the defensive side of the ball. So Detroit Lion fans, and I only know 2 of you. I actually only know 2
more
of you.
than I know.
Yeah. If they play the same brand of football that they played last year, I see this team winning 7, potentially 8 football games this year. And coming from 3 last year, that's an ascending football team at the right time. You never know when it's going to be Aaron Rodgers' last season. And if the Packers disappoint and he can't get over the hump again, they don't get into a Super Bowl or he doesn't win a Super Bowl, for all my money, this is it for him, right? And this is the time you want to be ascending, where things like this will get you back to the Scott Mitchell, Herman Moore, Barry Sander days of when the team was actually a playoff. Brett Perriman, I just pulled out Brett Perriman on you. I know that's impressive. That is Rashad Perriman's father, just so we're being clear here. That's how long Lou and I have been watching football. But you're going to get back to, Chris Spielman, those days. This is kind of what this football team reminds me of. Just like what their city represents, just blue collar, blue chip, and they're doing it all at the right time. And for me, it is unquestionably the Detroit Lions will impress this year.
I had them winning 7 games, 7 to 10.
I put 7 to 8 games this year.
Yeah. So.
All right, let me go disappointing team first, so that God forbid we're the same again, dude. What a boring episode if we're the same all the way throughout.
I have 2 for
okay, good. For me, it's going to be the Tennessee Titans.
That was one.
Okay, yeah. So disappointment. Let me set the proper expectations around this. I just told you that I actually have the Tennessee Titans making the playoffs, right, as that final seed in the AFC. And a fan would say, how can that be disappointing? Well, that's disappointing when you were 13-4 last year, or I think even 14-3, and the number 1 seed, and should have beat the Cincinnati Bengals to advance further into the playoffs. That was a game that you should have absolutely won. So many mind-boggling decisions in that game. Again, brings me back to Cincinnati on you're not getting that same. You're getting everybody's best game now. You know what I mean? Nobody's taking you light anymore, etc. I think Tennessee squeaks in, and I think it has everything to do with the division and the schedule that they will play. But the reality is they're not going to be the 1 seed. And, the roster like feels, yes, there's like key players, but it feels like somewhat similar, minus the AJ Brown, a couple of people here and there. Like you can't even argue Julio because he wasn't even on the field for you at all last year anyway. But to me, they're primed to disappoint, and the disappointing element of this is the fact that like I'm a big fan of Mike Vrabel. I would hire him as my head coach any day of the week. I love this brand of football, etc. But to go from first in your conference, and we always talk about the AFC is stacked this year. They were stacked last year too, right? So to be the number one seed, and then to potentially maybe squeak in, potentially miss the playoffs, like that's disappointing.
I won't, go too much into more detail, but I agree with you 100%. I think the Tennessee Titans this year are going to be extremely inconsistent, and it's going to be reflective in their record. I have them winning 8 games, 8-9, and that is an inconsistent team. It's not a bad team, but that is a disappointing for to miss the playoffs when only 8 games, being from the 1 seed. I think we're just being a dead horse here, and I don't want PETA to get on us. So I think I just want to say pretty much that was my number one. However, I always come prepared, Weston. So I have a backup.
I normally have 7 backups. I didn't this time because I was like, nah, he's not going to pick this team.
So, I mean, I have the Arizona Cardinals being a disappointing team. You want to talk about disappointing? Way too much drama going on this offseason. They lost Chandler Jones. Hopkins suspended 6 games. You got the shit that's going on with Kyler Murray. I'm sorry. You got Marquise Brown getting arrested for speeding. For speeding. It's just there's just way too much drama. The team did not get more talented in the offseason, if you want my honest opinion. And I just feel like I'm sorry. In the loaded NFC West division, I think they're going to seriously regress. I don't even have, obviously we stated before, but I don't have them making the playoffs. And I think the record I gave them, like I said, 7 wins, 7-10. And that is disappointing, especially compared where they were last year. And I'm also not a believer in, Kingsbury. I'm sorry. The offense is feast or famine, looks clunky at times, not like bunched up, but it just looks out of rhythm so many times. And I'm just not a fan of Kingsbury.
Yeah, I think the mantra that follows Kingsbury is the late season collapses. It's been following him since college. Everywhere he goes, the air raid offense has never really taken off. I'd feel, on paper, like, yes, losing Chandler Jones hurts. I think even losing Chase Edmonds hurts. But then before the D-Hop suspension, which really hurts, the D-Hop suspension, you felt like they could potentially get better on the offensive side of the ball because I absolutely believe Marquise Brown is an upgrade over Christian Kirk.
But we knew, though, they got Brown after the Hopkins suspension. So if they got Brown, if they got Brown while Hopkins was like still instated, I'm like, yeah, here we go. That's kind of cool. But they got that because of pretty much to pair up Murray with his former collegiate teammate.
Yeah, dude. Quick side note though, I don't know if you've seen this. I'm sure you have. We're both on Twitter. Have you seen? I'm going to call it a meme or a GIF or whatever it is of somebody showing Kyler Murray working out hard in the offseason. Have you seen this?
The shoelaces,
and it's JJ Watt's shoelace. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that shit's funny from an outside perspective, but it also makes me mad because it's like, listen, at the end of the day, Kyler Murray is a world-class athlete. World-class. Like, he could choose his sport that he wants to play. And I'm like, do we really need to add fuel to anybody's fire? You know what I mean?
I'm not worried about Kyler
I worry
Murray
about that, man. Bro, the NFL is all about locker room material. Don't give people locker room material.
I hear you, man, but come on. He's been hearing those. I never was a big Murray guy.
See, I listen, you want to know why I love Kyler Murray? Want to know why I love him? Because he came out of the blue to be the number 1 overall pick so that the 49ers landed Nick Bosa. Everything that year said Nick Bosa was the number 1 overall pick. And then, like quarterbacks always do, they found one to rise, and it was like Kyler Murray. And for that,
Damn it, yo! I remember that draft too, and
He'll be one of my favorite players in the NFL forever.
I remember, there was some smoke with Quinnen Williams and Bosa, and
Yep.
yo, the 49ers do their fans dirty, man. You cannot do anything simple. Like,
No.
I mean, everyone knew it was Murray, and
Yep.
then they had to throw some more, smoke screens that it could have been Quinnen Williams, and I'm not a big Quinnen Williams guy, and I'm like, it has to be Bosa. But I remember you all being up in arms with Quinnen, the possibility of being Quinnen Williams. But that's funny as hell. All right, so that is my
Probably killed
disappointing team,
myself.
the Arizona Cardinals.
All right. So let's go through the player awards. Let's switch to players now. So again, we're going to do MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm calling it There He Is, and we'll explain it when we get to it. And then the free agent, that's probably the free agent acquisition in the offseason that's most likely, in my words, most likely to implode and not equate to value. So do you want to start with the rookies, or do you want to start with the MVP and work our way down?
Dealer's choice. You go ahead.
I'll start with the rookies.
Okay.
And you know me, I love defense, so I'll start on the defensive side of the ball. Who's your defensive rookie of the year?
This one was another hard one for me, and whoever it's going to be, the defensive rookie of the year will reside in New Jersey. I was between two guys. It was Sauce Gardner, but I feel like it's hard for cornerbacks to win defensive rookie of the year.
Got to do what Trayvon Diggs did last year. That's the only way you get it.
So I had to pivot, even though I know I love Sauce Gardner. I think it's going to be Kayvon Thibodeau. I thought he was the best player in the draft, to be honest with you. And I don't know why, but the NFL has this stigma against Oregon players, talking like trash about them all the time. And they're Sewell, when he first came out, there's all this, Herbert, now Kayvon Thibodeau. If you look at it, he's an edge rusher, which is huge because pass rushers do have a tendency of winning these things. They've won 7 over the last 10 years. So he meets that criteria, right? He's in the NFC East. So outside of the Eagles, he faces some weak offensive line units, and 2 against the Washington Commanders, 2 against the Dallas Cowboys. And I just feel like from a talent standpoint, I just think, like I said, he was the most talented, but obviously has some off the field issues. I'm saying that, mockingly, but I think it's going to be Kayvon Thibodeau.
So funny because I had 2 names here to be prepared just in case in this instance, and one of mine also plays in the NFC East. In Jordan Davis, somebody that I like. I just think, playing alongside Fletcher Cox, like he's going to get a lot of single team matchups. He's a physical specimen, but my reality is I'm going to stick with my theme earlier. For me, it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson, an edge rusher out of Detroit. And I think with them, this is going to sound a little crazy, but with them being on Hard Knocks, casts a national spotlight on a team for a short period, and fans become infatuated. I think Aiden Hutchinson is the epitome of what Detroit needs and what Dan Campbell wants. Just all motor. Is he the most skilled and most talented? No, but playing in that division against some of those offensive lines, especially when I think about playing Minnesota and playing Chicago, I think he's even Green Bay's offensive line's gotten a little bit weaker, and uncertainty like is what's his face? Who was their left tackle? Why am I drawing a blank? I almost said Bakhtiari. Like, is he even back? At the end of the season injury, and it usually comes down to like what positions have the most spotlight, and it's usually the edge rusher. So I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson. Is going to be defensive rookie of the year.
All right. Do you want to go offensive first? I went defense.
Yeah, I'll go offensive rookie of the year.
Okay.
You mentioned this individual earlier in one of your segments, and unfair expectations up and down. So I'm just going to continue to beat the drum for the guy that I've been beating the drum for all offseason coming into the draft. And for me, it's going to be Treylon Burks. Typically, offensive rookie of the years are either quarterbacks or wide receivers is what it comes down to. I don't think there's a rookie quarterback who's going to get enough touch this year. Kenny Pickett probably is the outlier, but not a full season to warrant that Kenny Pickett was my backup plan just in case here.
So can I throw my hat in the ring with the Kenny Pickett talk? You're right. It's usually quarterbacks or receivers. Every now and then a running back.
A running back comes onto the steam, but like I think the big spotlight running back like Brees Hall plays for the Jets, man, and like their offenses, I don't know yet. You know,
so Kenny Pickett could receive the Mac Jones treatment, like Mac Jones did last year. Possible rookie of the year. I'm like, what are people watching? Because he'll be an efficient quarterback that leads a winning team.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, but when you really compare last year, Mac Jones to Jamar Chase, it wasn't even close. But for some reason, Mac Jones up until the end of the year was close. So I think Kenny Pickett could have that effect.
Yeah, and I think the statistics won't warrant it, and I don't think Kenny Pickett will even be asked to do those things, right?
Yeah,
to
but
go
people
throw for 4,500 yards.
Yeah, people associate quarterback stat as a wins as a quarterback stat. So
yeah, and I know how you feel about that. But for me, it's going to be Treylon Burks. The reason why I think it's Treylon Burks, the replacement of AJ Brown. And it's going to be about targets. It's going to be about volume. I think they're going to, while I think Treylon's best suited to be outside the numbers, and even though he's not a blazing speed guy, he somehow gets this like separation and plays with his body really well. I think he's going to play closer to the line of scrimmage, and he's going to have to become a safety net for Tannehill. I think it bodes even well for him if somehow Malik Willis squeaks into that offense. If Tannehill doesn't feel like he's at least treading water and he continues to descend, I think Malik Willis finds his way in there, and my vote would be Treylon Burks as your offensive rookie of the year.
I'm going to tell you right now, Weston, you're either going to look ridiculously smart when we look back at this, or you're going to look like a goddamn fool because you're really doubling down the Treylon Burks, hype. So
I am, and bro, he's talented.
I know. I just hate where he went.
Talented.
I just hate where he went. And I'll tell you right now, when I was trying to do this offensive rookies of the year, I hated where a lot of these players went because it's hard. It's hard to like see him like, oh, that guy's definitely going to be like, breakout or what have you. So so I kind of had the same mentality as you. I was looking for a quarterback. I'm like, does Pickett get the Mac Jones treatment? Nah. So I'm also staying at the same position as you are at the wide receiver position. I think this one might shock you, but hear me out here. I think the offensive rookie of the year will be Drake London. And let me tell you why. Numerous factors.
If Matt Ryan was there, I'd agree with you wholeheartedly, and I'd probably pick him.
Hear me out. He has the opportunity, meaning he's not the number one. Like Treylon Burks is going to be, kind of forced to be the number one. Everyone's going to be fixated on Kyle Pitts. However, there's not too many mouths to feed there. So I call that prime opportunity right there. There's someone else that defense is looking to stop. However, he still will have enough targets to wreak havoc. And also, I think he's going to have game flow on his side. You said Atlanta's defense has improved. It's still pretty damn bad. So they're always going to be trailing. So they're going to have to, throw the ball. And you're like, oh, they're going to throw the ball Mariota. Well, I didn't say maybe it was Mariota. Maybe it's Desmond Ridder. And last but not least, their rushing attack is to be desired. It's not like they're going to be like a ground and pound team. They're not built like that. So you put all those things in a lab, and you get the next offensive rookie of the year in Drake London.
I'd feel much more confident if I was more confident in the quarterback play down there than I am. But you're
loving Tannehill to Treylon Burks.
I would prefer Tannehill over Marcus Mariota or some combination of Mariota or Desmond Ridder any day of the week. Okay. Hey, listen, I'm only picking your guy who you put as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL last season. Did you or did you not confirm this?
That was like from 2 years ago.
No, that was going into last season, bro. We've only been doing this for a little over a year. So,
and kids, that's why you don't do drugs. All right, so
let's stay on the offensive side of the ball if you don't mind.
All right, let's do it.
Offensive player of the year.
I'll go first, and you're gonna hate me.
Yeah.
Once again, I feel like I have a read on you, and that's why earlier before we recorded, I asked if you play poker because I wanted to get you in the game that we're going to be having in about a month or so. But Justin Jefferson has to be Justin Jefferson. last year Jefferson balled out, and they were a run-first team. Now bring over Kevin O'Connell from the Los Angeles Rams. I'm expecting more passing from the Minnesota Vikings. I'm expecting more unique usage of Justin Jefferson, not just on the boundary as the X receiver, more in the slot. I think he's going to move all the way around. Justin Jefferson is your offensive rookie. I mean, your offensive player of the year.
Bro, you know I love Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Love everything about him. I can't even argue with any of that logic whatsoever. I'll just tell you that you don't have the beat on me that maybe you thought you did going first. My offensive player of the year is Justin Herbert.
No, they never give. Do they give offensive? I feel like they always give the MVPs.
No. Well, I have a different MVP. And there's a reason
Hold on.
why.
I would. We gotta look back at this. Has there ever been an offensive player and an MVP, both quarterbacks? I feel like they never do that.
So it's Justin Herbert, and statistically, he's going to light it up this year. I'll talk about that in a second, but Herbert, I mean, dude, he is as advertised. We've been talking about it. I've been pounding the table for him for a long, long time. I'm no different than anybody else. I know you don't think your team deserves nice things, but I think you're finally coming around that you have like a surefire thing. I think what bodes well for him is defense has gotten better as well. So they'll take more shots, they'll take more risks because they'll feel like their defense can bail them out. And if I'm rolling the dice and this guy's the one throwing the ball, like I'm feeling really good about dialing up some big plays, some risky plays. Dude, he could have won Offensive Player of the Year last year.
Yeah,
is what he did statistically. If he hates that, it's him. It's him all day. That's my Offensive Player of the Year, Justin Herbert.
All right. Defensive Player of the Year. I'll let you go first. I have two people, by the way.
I have three.
Pick your guy though. Pick your one. I don't. Just pick your guy. Or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first, and I'll be controversial.
Okay.
Nick Bosa.
That's not controversial.
Nah, I have to imagine that at least one of your guys is one of the other two guys that I had, but it's Bosa. I think every year he's just gotten increasingly better. I think the 49ers defensive line is still deep, regardless of what people want to say. I know we lost DJ Jones, but maybe even getting Kinlaw back, Armstead in the middle, right? That frees up some bodies. Drake Jackson can be healthy. Their rookie, their second round pick this year. He's an able body to put on that outside opposite of Bosa. That's going to require some attention. And you start getting Bosa. Dude, I saw a clip today that just made me laugh. Niners have the Vikings this weekend, so their joint practice was with the Vikings. And you can't touch the quarterback in these. Bosa had a series, I think it was like over like 10 snaps, where he would have had essentially 6 quarterback sacks, right? In like 10 snaps. And there's clips, dude, where like you can't hit the quarterback. Like you just bump them, right? Like you can't even hit him in these types of practices. And dudes on the offensive line are still have him in chokeholds, right? Like even in a practice where you can't hurt your quarterback, you're treating it like a game. I expect a big season out of Nick Bosa. And when I say big, my expectations are like 17, 18 sacks out of that man this year. And I think that's enough. If he gets that high, that's enough. I think he was in the conversation last year, you know, and he's in the conversation again this year.
That's not controversial whatsoever.
It feels like a homer pick because he's like my guy, you know, but like
I didn't know you were even a Niners fan. My bad. Anyways, my two are controversial now. Yours is not controversial. My two are controversial. All right, I'll tell you my backup one first. And then I had to refrain. I'm just being a homer. All right. And I think you're going to know where I'm going with this. But originally I was going to say Derwin James. All right. And the reason being is because how they're going to utilize Derwin is completely different than what you've seen in the past. He's going to be closer to the line of scrimmage. We've alluded to this before on other shows. You're not going to know if he's going to be coming off a blitz, providing coverage, zone, man-to-man, shutting down the tight ends in the AFC West. He can easily have like 4 interceptions, 5 sacks type of year. But then I started looking at history, and the last time a safety won it was back in 2010. We discussed this as well when Troy Polamalu won it. He had 7 interceptions and 1 sack, 63 tackles, and 6 tackles for a loss. So it's really hard. And over the last 10 years, Luke Kuechly and Stephon Gilmore were the only other ones to win it that weren't rushers. I'm not just saying edge rushers because you're incorporating Aaron Donald,
who's a pass rusher,
yeah.
for sure.
So it's extremely rare, to win it if you're not a rusher. So I'm sorry for this being long winded, but my controversial pick for defensive player of the year is actually going to be Micah Parsons. Hear me out. First of all, it's been documented on this show how I said Parsons was like, I think the third or fourth ranked prospect coming out of that draft. I was a huge fan of him. I gushed over him. My combine report over him and everything, my scouting report was so in depth and everything I loved about him. But last year, the dude wasn't even a full-time edge rusher and had 13 sacks. He rushed 51% of the time, and he got home over 21% of the time on his rushes. That is insanely efficient. Watching him, and I know this is that preseason hype and what have you. Everyone's in the best shape of their lives, and thanks to God and everything, all that stuff. But this guy, watching him in the joint practice with the Chargers, this guy, he's a man, and I think what he's going to provide, for the Dallas Cowboys defense is going to be quite unique, and you're going to see a monster year from him.
Nah, I love it. Rock the boat. I want to go back to your Derwin thing because it was only a few episodes where I said on this show,
yes,
dark
that's true.
horse for defensive player of the year because of those things, right? Like because of talent that you put around him on the defensive side of the ball, you can gamble with him more, right? Use him more Jamal Adams-esque and get to the ball carrier.
He's a fantastic blitzer.
Yeah.
He times it well, doesn't get caught, overpowered. I've seen him push over offensive tackles, like bull rush offensive tackles.
I think so my other person was like, it could have been a toss-up. Forgive me, between TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. Garrett, I was leaning towards, but it was dependent upon the Deshaun Watson suspension because you can, like with those edge rushers, like maybe you get a little bit more risky. Maybe you pin your ears back and go, knowing that you have the quarterback that's capable to help you in like a shootout, right? So you're a little bit more risk averse in that. So I was leaning towards him until the suspension became 11 games. And then I was like, this is going to be an indictment on the defense now. Like they're going to have to step up to carry them, which means Garrett's going to have to play well. But can he just like solely be like a pass rusher, or is he going to have to do everything well? But I love the Micah Parsons. I honestly, I can't disagree with anything. If I was going to be a negative Nancy in this particular instance, I think the only thing that might hurt him is how the Cowboys play collectively. Because again, these awards tend to be won for top players on top teams, right? Is usually how it goes.
I think that defensive unit will be good though, and he'll be the face of that defensive unit.
Yeah, I won't argue it. All right, so cream of the crop, man. Who's your MVP?
All right, so originally I was gonna say Josh Allen. That was original. That was my first knee jerk reaction, but I got a little gun shy because of the loss of Brian Dable. I don't think that can be understated how of a major contributor from a play design and a play caller Brian Dable was, and how much he really contributed to the success of Josh Allen. I know Ken Dorsey was his quarterback coach and he got promoted to offensive coordinator, but for some reason I'm still hesitant to make Allen my MVP. So I went with more of a stable scenario where the head coach is coming back. The head coach is the same. Offensive coordinator is the same. Patrick Mahomes. It's a cop-out. I get it. But I really think they're going to show something different this year from an efficiency standpoint. And I'm really looking forward, not looking forward to it at all, but I'm really thinking that he's going to have like an Aaron Rodgers type of year where really efficient. He's going to have single-digit interceptions, those high 30 touchdowns, and 4,700 yards.
Yeah. Listen, it's really hard. Like when you have people like Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady still in the league to like pick against them. I'm going with my knee jerk reaction, and it is for me Josh Allen.
See,
And
I'm afraid they're not going to use Josh Allen as a runner as much as they did, that he was gaining like 500 to 700 yards a season because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll tone it down a little bit, especially because, like you mentioned, like, hey, Ken Dorsey, first time offensive coordinator. By the way, 49er legend Ken Dorsey, because he was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers out of the University of Miami. But I believe in Dorsey. I don't think he's going to deviate too far from the course in terms of like what Dable was doing. I think you're going to see a lot of similarities. I do think they'll tone down the running a little bit, but typically this award is won by the best player on the best team. And when you play quarterback, I know as much as we hate it, they attribute wins as a quarterback stat. So if he, wins 13, 14 games this year in Buffalo, like I fully expect them to do, and he's the integral part of it, I think it's Josh Allen. Now, if I could go outside a little bit, Lamar Jackson would be my dark horse. And Lamar Jackson, just because
worry about the health, though. Yeah, but you're right.
Yeah. I mean, listen, for all these people, right? We're second week of the preseason. For all we know, like they might not even see the field and we'll look like idiots, right? In the regular season. But I can't get out of my mind what Lamar Jackson did through the first 8 weeks of the season last year. And if he doesn't even have to do that again, even if that's toned back a little bit, and then you can replicate it over the course of an entire season, how do you argue with that? I mean, that's a guy that's going to throw for 4,600 yards. He's going to throw 35 touchdowns. He's going to run for 1,000, 900, 1,000 yards and run in 10 touchdowns. That's the MVP if that's the year he puts up.
Let's also not forget the factor he's on a contract year. You see what I'm saying? That you can't forget those things. How many times do players have their best season ever on a contract year? Just saying.
Yeah, I mean it's an unwritten rule in the NFL.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go with what I have termed the there he is. When we were kind of crafting this segment, we talked a little bit about like the Deebo Samuel effect, right? A player that we know was a good football player, has proven to be a good football player, but all of a sudden it just realizes this potential that they have and finally arrives on scene. I'll pass the torch to you. Who's your there he is player for the 2022 season?
My there he is none other than wide receiver from the Dallas Cowboys, CD Lamb. Now, I'm not a Cowboys fan, all right? And CD has been good. This is not a cop-out, but if you look at his stats, he's been good, all right? Since he arrived in Big D, he's averaged 76 catches and a little over 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's good, right? That's good. That's not great.
No.
However, let's take a step back now. Once again, CD has the skill and now the opportunity. No Amari Cooper, right? There go those targets. Michael Gallup not starting the season, right away. So there goes those targets. Mike McCarthy hates to run the ball. Always has. He's always been a pass-heavy coach. Look in the days with the Green Bay, right? All these things saying, I think CD Lamb breaks out, has 100 catches, 14, maybe 1,500 yards and double-digit touchdowns. And I think he goes off. I was a huge CD Lamb fan coming out from the draft. So I think between opportunity and skill, he goes off. I know as a Niner fan, pains you to say anything nice about Cowboys players.
No, I mean, listen, the year that we took Kinlaw and then came back in and got Ayuk, I was praying to God it was CD Lamb. I was literally praying to God it was CD Lamb. Listen, it works out for differently for everybody. I think mine, I don't want to call it a little bit more shocking, but like, let me explain.
Okay.
So if Jason Aponte, who's been on our show and we've been on his show, was an avid listener of the We're Talking Football podcast, I would say, Jason Aponte, this bud is for you. In tribute to the Bud, was it Budweiser or Bud Light commercials back in the day? This bud's for you. DJ Moore, wide receiver from Carolina Panthers. Now you might be like, I know who DJ Moore is, right? Like people know who DJ Moore is. Last year, I mean, dude, he's had 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, right? But he's never had more than 4 touchdowns in a single season. He's never had more than 100 receptions. And look at his quarterbacks. I'm going to rattle off 6 names for you over the last 4 years of his professional career. Teddy Bridgewater, PJ Walker, Sam Darnold, Kyle Allen, and Cam Newton, the corpse of Cam Newton. Sorry, 5 names for you. I left off what's his face, the kid from West Virginia. Will Grier. That being said, these aren't exactly like household names or anybody that inspires you to think that like they could take advantage of a player like DJ Moore. He's still 25 years old, dude. He's still a baby in the eyes of the NFL. And what I think is, look, I know Baker Mayfield's not super inspiring, but he inspires me more than a fatigued, past his prime Cam Newton and any of the other names that we've talked about. And I think finally, because it's been talked about for years, DJ Moore will have a absurd season. And by absurd, I'm going to put on paper 1,300 plus yards, 8 plus touchdown receptions, and he will get out of being lost in continued mediocrity in Carolina in a low NFL market and finally hit like true national spotlight that he actually deserves.
One thing. Do you know who his offensive coordinator is?
I don't care.
Oh, do me a favor. You got to Google it. See, look, he got nervous now. Lou's about to drop some knowledge. Weston's dropping
I'm walking off the show.
His offensive coordinator is none other than brilliant mind himself, Ben McAdoo.
Macadoodle.
That's where you're throwing the wrench into this DJ Moore hype talk. Love him as a player, but what do we say all the time about coaching? It's all about coaching.
Matters in the NFL. That's what we say.
All right.
DJ Moore's my guy. All right, let's wrap this up. Our final segment here is who is the prized free agent acquisition for a team that is most likely to, I say implode, you might say disappoint, but whatever the case might be, will not live up to his free agent standing.
You want to go first? I feel like I've been going first a lot. You can go first.
Yeah, so mine is maybe I cheated a little bit, not necessarily free agent, but new team, new player. So I liken him to a free agent because he's brand new to the team. He's brand new to the scenario. They've been toying with moving him for a little bit. So for me, it's going to be Tyreek Hill. And the reason why I'm classifying him as a free agent is because there was a brand new, nice, shiny contract that came with that move in acquisition as well. Look, super talented player, but he winds up in the Miami Dolphins. To me, this is less of an indictment on Tyreek Hill as it is on the team in which he is arriving to, and most importantly, the quarterback play. Yes, Tua Tagovailoa, I am looking at you. He goes from playing, so it's about the change in who he's playing for and with versus who he was playing for and with. So he is going from Patrick Mahomes to Tua Tagovailoa as his quarterback. He's going from Andy Reid to Mike McDaniel. And caveat here, I love Mike McDaniel. Like, I'm on the record of that. But he is certainly, in his first year as an NFL head coach, is still a huge unknown and is going to be designing that offense, doing it from a head coaching lens with much more responsibility. And he is certainly not Andy Reid. What this really, when you think of Tyreek Hill, most people think big play ability, right? Stretching the field. And I just don't think that same success is going to come to fruition in Miami. And that's you spent what, almost $30 million a year on this guy, you're not going to get $30 million worth of production. You might get $10 to $12 million worth of production.
Ooh. You'd be a little harsh. I get it, but I think you'd be a little harsh.
No, dude. Bro.
Mine isn't as controversial as yours, and I just think it's more logical. My most disappointing free agent signing, I think, will be none other than Randy Gregory. All right. So here you are in the AFC West, the Las Vegas Raiders, to pair up with Max Crosby, got Chandler Jones. All right. Because you want to create more pressure. The Los Angeles Chargers got Khalil Mack for Joey Bosa, so to increase more pressure. This was the Denver Broncos' answer to that, to pair with Chubb, Nick Chubb. Not Nick Chubb. What's his name?
Bradley Chubb.
Bradley Chubb. Randy Gregory got a 5-year, $70 million deal. And this guy has never had more than 6 sacks in the season, has never played a full season, by the way. He's never played all 17 games. He's always been relegated to a role player, and now they're throwing him as a starter. And they're going to automatically think it will equate to larger numbers. I hate when people do that. You prorate it. So, he played 5 games last year, got 6 sacks. So if you just times that by 3, he's going to get 18 sacks this year. That's not how it works. And he's not exactly what you would call a workout warrior. He's somewhat of a head case. And you have to keep him motivated. And just saying, I think that was a exorbitant amount of money for a part-time player being thrusted into a full-time role. You've seen it all the time in NFL history. It just doesn't work out. So,
dude, Gregory's up there. I mean, you mentioned a name that they were trying to replicate. Even, I toyed with maybe even Chandler Jones a little bit here, and I love Chandler Jones.
Him and Crosby are going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Max Crosby is an absolute savage, and he still doesn't get as much love as he does. I think pairing Chandler with Max prolongs the value of Chandler. But you and I've talked about it, I think even openly on this show, that the production dipped tremendously at the end of last year, and Chandler ain't getting any younger. And that's just the way this happens in the NFL. I think the reality is if you get Yannick Ngakoue production, you're probably still happy because of Crosby on the opposite side. But yeah, I mean, dude, there's every chance every single year that Randy Gregory gets an indefinite suspension from the NFL. If he gets
not good anymore, news, not with weed.
Well, now because he's in a state where it's actually legal as well, right? So he's got free reign, essentially. But yeah, there's a lot of risk there, and I forget what the guaranteed 39, 49 million, something ridiculous
off
too.
the top of my head.
Yeah, it was something, because I remember when I was looking at it, because I was like, oh, this ain't gonna go well.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Like I said, for me, it's Tyreek. I think the world of the player as a player, not as an individual. But I just think sometimes you got to overpay for the superstars, and you had to give up, quite a bit to get them. But I can't state enough the difference between going to play with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and then Tua Tagovailoa and first-year head coach Mike McDaniel. That's a world of a difference on how this guy will get utilized.
And I get it. I just don't think he's going to be as underutilized and as bad as you're projecting him to be. I don't think he's going to be where he was with Kansas City. Don't get me wrong. There is going to be regression because of the talent, but I think I feel you're also discounting Mike McDaniel's. You're not. You say you're a Mike McDaniel fan, but wouldn't you be a believer in Mike McDaniel being able to get the ball into Tyreek Hill's hands?
Yeah,
that's
But I'm not a believer in the quarterback that he's using to get the ball into his hands. And
yeah, but to Tua's listen, I'm not. To Tua's defense, this is the first time he probably has a really offensive-minded coaching staff. Look at the people before.
Yeah, Flores, all these guys. Defense.
Not even that. The offensive coordinators were god friggin' awful. They were scrap heaps of offensive minds. So this is the first time he might have someone that's a little more innovative and more, quarterback friendly. We'll
So
see.
here's my logic behind it. I know it's next man up mentality, and as the salary cap grows and we get further into the future here, every year these players make more and more and more money. But like a $30 million a year wide receiver, I'd argue that his production even in Kansas City doesn't warrant $30 million a year, right? And I will say I want to be crystal clear about this. If his production, statistically speaking, is 2/3 of what it was in Kansas City, Miami fans should think of that as a win, but that still doesn't equate to what you had to give up and what you're paying that person to get them. And for me, that's why it's like it's the same way I feel about the kid that was drafted by Jacksonville, #1 overall. Like,
Trevon Walker.
yeah, like it's just you're just put in an unfavorable scenario that like it's going to be really hard to overcome and like live up to that billing, and therefore all intents. Now, I'm not saying Tyreek Hill can ever be considered a bust because what he has actually done and what his body of work, but from Miami forward, it will feel like it was a bust, and it'll feel like another free agent that just got overpaid, trying to get a superstar name that never amounted.
Yep.
All right, Lou, that wraps us up. One thing that I want to say as a caveat, this is our riskiest episode ever because we are making a ton of predictions that, like all things in the NFL, are solely predicated on health and things going.
Yeah, this is
the
our
way-
way too early predictions.
Yeah. We'll be back midway through the year and track how these are going like we did last season when we did kind of our mid-season awards, if you will. But outside of that, Lou, I'll rely on you like I always do. Tell the audience where they can find us.
Come on, guys. Follow us on WTF Pod NFL on our Twitter account and Instagram page. You're not going to be disappointed. And Weston, tell them about our YouTube page.
Yeah, nice and simple. We're talking football on YouTube. Hit the likes, hit the subscribes. I'm just going to keep reiterating what I always said. I told Lou if we ever got over 500 YouTube subscribers, it's going to be a very expensive dinner that I will gladly own up to and take him out to. So let Lou eat my words, essentially.
I want to give you a heads up real quick before we say goodbye to everyone. I am in the process of creating 440 email addresses so I can just then subscribe to YouTube 440 times for that free dinner. That's how I roll.
Hey, whatever gets us to that threshold, then the rest just keep on coming. It's got a funny way of finding you. Lou, always a pleasure, my friend. Everybody enjoy the week 2. I know we had some games tonight, but enjoy week 2 of the preseason, and we'll be back before regular season kicks off and looking forward to it. Adios.